成都 in the house， 南京也 in the house，LA in the house，and Boston in the house， 上海 in the house， 台湾、香港 in the house，We got Thailand in the house，and London in the house。
Wandering the streets all through the night, searching for the one to make me right. Wondering if she's the shade of you, and if so, should I try to see it through? Darling, I got my trust issues, warning you stay away. If we meet at the rendezvous, take me away, sun and rain. Darling, I got my trust issues, warning you stay away. If we meet at the rendezvous, take me away, sun and rain.
你不用漂亮，虽然已经很漂亮，我随时准备好迎接这场较量。你不用聪明，虽然已经很聪明，在不一样的时间和你看一样的风景。你不用假装，其实你不用假装，在伊甸园里你演夏娃，我演亚当。你不用顾虑，其实你不用顾虑，让月亮代表我陪你在月光下面沐浴。You are my motivation, in a reason， 是上帝送给我最好的 present。Baby girl, you know my situation. No matter what happen, but you always be my best friend。你是钢琴上的36个黑键，你的出现填补旋律上的缺陷。你是张被我无限循环的老唱片，罐头有保质期的爱你没有上限。你问过5年之后我会变成什么样？可能你会看到我结婚的消息被放上新闻，可能我会有一个很爱我的老婆，可能我已经有了自己的小孩。不会变的是，我还是那个可以在人群中一眼就把你的笑容找到的 lover boy， 我还是那个可以陪你踏到小岛上一起找自己的 lover boy。 So what about you?
I'm missing you, my honey. Don't you? 我是一个被你变忧郁的小丑。Oh yeah， 每一天都有情话，想不想听 ？Just tell me， 求求你给个回应，让我开心。I'm ready. Oh, I'm not a player， 但你总不相信，想把自己变帅，只为了衬托你。When you need a lover， 随时可以 call me。Just call me，Just call me。Oh, I'm not a player， 但你总不相信，想把自己变帅，只为了衬托你。When you need a lover， 随时可以 call me。Just call me，Just call me。我会像你说的那样，好好读书，你也好好画画，因为我觉得我们总有一天可以躺在一起，看同一部电影，听同一首歌曲，因为我永远都是你的 lover boy。비틀비틀 걸어가는 나의 다리, 오늘도 의미 없는 또 하루가 흘러가죠. 사랑도 끼리끼리 하는 거라 믿는 나는 좀처럼 두근두근 거릴 일이 전혀 없죠. 윙윙 하루살이도 저량은 나를 비웃듯이 멀리 날아가죠. 빙빙 돌아가는 세상도 나를 비웃듯이 계속 꿈틀대죠. Tell me, please don't tell. 차라리 듣지 못한 편이 내겐 좋을 거야. Tell me, please don't tell. 차라리 보지 못한 편이 내겐 좋을 거야. 사람들 북적대
All right, hello and welcome. Let me stop that, and forgot to pull up chat here. Okay, wonderful. Now you can all say hello. Yeah, so I'm still working on this project about The Office. So I've been doing this Dataviz project about The Office based on Michael Scott constantly misquoting or botching common idioms and phrases. Let me spin up some music too. So yeah, basically just going to keep going on that project. Today is going to be doing a little bit more design work. So last time we made a couple of possible mockups for the layout of the main visual. And now I'm going to do some more mockups, a little bit of refining, and also work on the specifics of the design a little bit more. So last time we started playing around with things like colors and typography. Hello. I think I always forget people's Twitch names. I'm pretty sure this is Robert in the chat. So hello, Robert, if that is you. And sorry if I got your name wrong. Yeah, it's going to be kind of a chill stream. You can just hang out, listen to some music, chat, ask questions while I work through some design and colors and type stuff. So the first thing I want to do is work on this mockup here. I'm going to make a third option. So what I started doing last time was looking at showing these various quotes. So I have like 200 or something of these quotes that I want to show off. Cool, I got it right. It is Robert. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. So yeah, so I have like 200 of these quotes or something, you know, and they're spread across the various seasons of The Office, and they all have all this associated data. And then I have videos of each one. So the thing that I want to do is decide how I'm going to show those videos and how people are going to explore the data. And the goal is to make it basically as easy as possible and as enjoyable as possible for people to explore many of these different possibilities, because what I started thinking about last time was that a lot of people probably wouldn't spend that much time with it if you have to like click and do lots of stuff to get through layers to see the video, because especially if you've never seen the show before, or if you're not a frequent viewer or like a super fan of the show, then you definitely need a lot of context to understand it. And that's where the videos come in. Oh, cool. Robert says it's come so far from when I last saw it. Exciting stuff. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to hear that. Because definitely when you're working on it, like kind of progressively day to day, you don't always see the progress you're making. So like to me, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, I haven't made that much progress, but it's good to see that, you know, the outside perspective is different. So glad to see that. So yeah, I think what I'm going to try to do, I had an idea for a third layout, which is kind of going to combine these two ideas. I like the idea of having one big video that swaps based on whatever the current like highlighted or focused quote is. But at the same time, I also like the context of being able to see like a couple of quotes ahead, like before and after, especially because a lot of these come from the same episode. So I'm going to try to combine these two layouts into something that I think might be the right one. And we will see how it works. Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is just move this over, and I'm going to try to make like a vertical layout for the cards. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's remove the fill and add a stroke to this. Actually, I'm going to move this over here a little bit because it's hard for me to see because my mic boom is in the way of all the buttons, so I actually couldn't see where I'm clicking. Okay, so I'm going to do something like this, and then and this is again just kind of like very this isn't super, I should say this isn't super high fidelity designing right now. This is really more, it's still just like sketching. Okay, I'm gonna take this over here. Actually, I designed one of these that I liked better down here, so I'm gonna take some of this stuff and see if there's a way that I can make this fit. This is harder to fit all the same information in here. I guess it'll depend a little bit on the screen size. Let me think about this for a second. There might also be a way that I can do this with overflow, but I'd rather people not have to scroll a lot. I don't love that idea. And there might be cases where people have to scroll because that's just the only possibility, because some of these quotes are going to be really long. Most of them are pretty short, but some of them are going to be kind of long. And I'm actually designing with one right now that's kind of long, so then where does that information go? That's a question. Type is already small enough, I think. Let's see, we're at 100%. Oh, what is the zoomed 100%, shift 0? Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I don't make this type too small to read. This is already at 14, which for me, for a screen, is like pretty much as small as I want to make body type. I don't really want to go much, I mean, I'd prefer it to actually be bigger, but I definitely don't want to go smaller than that. Didn't check also what I made. Did make that 36, okay. The other question about this is that I have to make sure that the video is going to be the right aspect ratio. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. This is tough then, because if I go with something like this, it leaves quite a bit of dead space on the vertical. Damn. I had a lot of hope for this layout, but it seems like maybe it's not going to work because I don't know how well it's going to work on different screen sizes. Because this is already pretty small, and this screen is like 1440. And this definitely needs to work on screens that are, you know, down to like maybe 1000 or at least 1200 in width. And I think it's getting to the point where it's going to be pretty squished if trying to fit these two things here, unless I make these a lot larger, which kind of defeats the purpose. Like, you know, I could make this a lot larger and then have room to fit all this stuff like here or somewhere else. I don't know where it would go. Maybe it just goes like this. But the problem is if I make this a lot taller, then, you know, this sort of defeats the whole purpose of all of this. Because I was hoping to have like multiples of these that come out, and so and they would scroll vertically, but definitely it makes it hard to do that if these have to be really tall. Of course, another way to do it is just kind of an interesting idea. Another way to do it is to kind of cheat a little bit and have, so the focused one can be a little bit taller. This is driving me crazy. I have to align that. These have different line heights, that's why it looks weird. Okay, there we go. Ah, okay. That's good to know. Robert says his intuition is that the scroll would have would be like left to right to keep it consistent with the fact that this axis on the bottom is left to right. That's a good point. It also brings up another option, which I didn't really think about a lot, which is that this could be vertical. You know, so if this is vertical, then how does that change our layout options? So this is what I meant when I said cheating, was that there could essentially be a focus state for the one that's currently selected, and that is expanded. And then the other ones that are not currently selected would be like something like this. Interesting possibility. But I'm interested in also exploring the other option that I just thought of based on Robert's suggestion, which is what happens if what happens if this is vertical? Does that make it easier to do a good layout? Does that make it harder to do a layout? I don't know. Seems like that makes it harder, at least if we're going with this layout, because it's definitely harder to like fit the video in here in terms of the width now, because we have even less width than we did before. So yeah, that doesn't seem great. I'm still struggling with the dead space here as well. I don't know what goes there. It's a good question. Because the video, if the video goes here or something, it's possible that we just have some graphical element up here. But I think ideally the video would be larger. Like, I'm still now leaning towards this, which the downside of it is that it only shows one of these quotes at a time. I guess it's fine. It's fine that it only shows one of these at a time. Like, doesn't seem like such a huge deal. The other thing that we could do is if this is slightly smaller, then does it make sense to have more of these over here? Maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe it just makes sense to have it switch like that. All right, well, this is an option. You know, I'm gonna leave this as a possibility. Even though I'm currently not in love with it, but also has to do with the fact that I can't seem to figure out how to lay out these elements properly, which is driving me crazy. And I should probably just put a grid on this, and then that would make it a lot easier. But I'm being dumb and stubborn and not wanting to, so. It's also probably that this is going to be variable height because Robert asked, what is this design program? Yeah, this is Figma. Figma is a free design program. It's really cool. Really good for designing layouts, doing like UI, UX work. It's a general vector editor, and it's really amazingly designed for online work, so you can use Figma in the browser, and its big selling feature was originally collaboration, because it was the first like collaborative design tool, so you can use it like Google Docs. There can be multiple people. See, this is me, W, up in the corner here, but there could be a bunch of other people here designing at the same time. So it's really nice for that purpose. And yeah, it's a really cool program. I love Figma. I use Figma nowadays for like almost all my vector editing. So I do not just layout work here, but I do all kinds of work. Like I do, I'll even do charts sometimes in Figma. Like I'll just take a chart from ggplot, like an SVG, or some other kind of, some other kind of chart, like from D3 or something, and pull it into Figma and start working on it in here. Okay, this is still like terrible. I can't figure out the layout for this, and maybe the fact that I can't figure it out means that this isn't the right layout, this horizontal thing. I still really do like having this, even though I don't know why it matters, but I like it. But maybe it's just not going to fit because all these elements are just not fitting together. It's like trying to put together a puzzle and they're just like not fitting together correctly. So I will leave it for now and focus on other things for the time being. Namely the design systems. So last time I did a little bit of sort of sketching, like these are the colors. So these are some of the colors that I came up with. These are pretty random. These are just like eyedroppered from the show, so we're going to do a lot of work on those. And then the typography, I had a few different systems that I was focusing on for the typography. This is the title, which would be like, the title would be like probably just the logo for the project, so it doesn't really have to pair with the other typefaces a lot, because it's only going to be used probably in one place or maybe two places at max. So it's not really important to me that this is super well paired with the rest of them. But then these are important to pair. This would be for headers and for the body text, and then for quotes. The quotes are going to be in a font that is like Courier, because Courier is used in screenwriting. So anytime you see a script for like a TV show or a movie, it's always going to be set in Courier. It's just like an industry thing that they always set things in Courier. And so this is actually Courier, but I tried it down here with a different font, which is Pitch, which is a similar typewriter font, but it's just much, much better design, better for the screen. Courier is like a very, very old font that wasn't really designed with modern screens in mind, and so it looks kind of chunky and goofy on the screen. But Pitch looks much nicer. It's a font from Klim, Type Foundry. Very, very beautiful font, so I think I like that better. I'm keeping Editorial New for the headlines. I really like this font. It's based on a condensed Garamond font that was used heavily in Apple computer advertisements around like the 80s. And so it kind of evokes that old techie feel, which I'm going for. And then the rest of the type, I tried this headline with Times New Roman, which is again for that sort of like system default font look. And I also tried it with Helvetica. It works better, I think, with Helvetica. I just kind of like this pairing better. It has more contrast. So, and when I do that, then it allows me to use Helvetica for the headlines, like subheaders as well, which seems to work really well. So I'm using Helvetica bold for the headers and normal Helvetica for the rest of the body, pitch for the quotes, and editorial new for headers. And I really like this type system, so I'll probably do a little bit more work on making this an actual hierarchy. This is also based mostly on a 16 point, or like at the base level, it's like a 4 pixel system. So usually these fonts are going in increments of 4. And I'm gonna have kind of a weird type system here because there's gonna be aspects of the project that are more normal, like this, where you'll see like a header and then a bunch of paragraphs of text, and those will have a different type hierarchy than these cards, which is going to be the second part of the project. So we're kind of going to have 2 separate type hierarchies, and the reason they're different is that the cards have to fit the content in a certain size. So I may be able to adjust that a little bit if I go with the mockup that's more like this, because I think I could give this a little bit more room, which would allow me to have some more space to play with. But for now, I'm going to set it up like this, and then let's bring this outside of this group. And then we can adjust it later if I need to. So the header here is going to be 36 pixels. The quotes are going to be pitch. I think this is working really well. So it's pitch bold for names, and pitch regular for quotes. 14 pixels for both of them. I think this is 14 pixels. Yeah, it is. Oh, thanks. Robert likes hearing about the process. Good, awesome. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I always try to talk about things like in a way, it's really hard sometimes to talk about these decisions. Like sometimes the decision is just, it looks better. But I always try to at least make an attempt to give a better reason than that, because that's not really helpful for people trying to learn how to design, learn typography. So I try. Okay, so those are quotes, and then body is. So I'm gonna have like subhead is Helvetica bold. I think it's like, oh, it's 20 pixels. Okay. Yeah. You never think about them during personal projects, and at work they're dictated for me. Yeah, I relish getting to choose my own because I really enjoy this stuff. So I really like typography and design systems and colors and coming up with my own designs. I mean, obviously that's what I do. I'm a designer, but I also do a lot of like development work and Dataviz development work, and so sometimes there's I'll do like freelance projects where I work for a company that already has an established design system and I don't get to make any of the decisions. That's hard. Yeah, like one thing to note, you know, like when I do the, I'll show this in a second, some stuff that can help, like if you're trying to learn typography. Let's see, and then body is Helvetica regular 14 pixel. And then we have another one which is like caption, which is Helvetica regular 12 pixel. And I might change these. I'm sort of suspecting that I'm going to change these to 16 pixel and make it a little bit bigger. But for the time being, I'm going to just leave it as is and sort of see how it fits into the design. But I'm suspecting I might change that. Okay, so Benur says, got one question. What is the inflection point in your skills that led you to where you are? Ooh, I don't know. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe like, do you mean like, was there a point when I felt like I don't know, like my skills were developed enough to make certain things, or was there like a certain point where I had skills that I needed to like pivot careers? Because I did sort of like, I have had like various careers, so yes, okay, yes, like when are your skills developed to make something? They never are. So that's probably a frustrating answer, but the truth is like it's always a balancing act. So what I can say is that like, you know, there's a myriad of things that I'd love to do, like even with this project, that I'm not able to because my skills are just not up to snuff. Sometimes it's just that like a design doesn't come out exactly how you had imagined it because yeah, like the skills maturity. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely points where you can feel like you've made progress, but it's always going to feel, you know, I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where you feel like there's nothing left to learn, right? Because like even for projects that I work on nowadays, even though I know that I've made a lot of progress from like 1 or 2 years ago, there's always more to learn. And so, you know, every project that I work on, I'm going to think, oh, I wish I could do like some cool WebGL thing with a bunch of like shaders, but I don't really know how to do WebGL. I don't really know how to write shaders. And those are things that I want to learn someday, and I just haven't learned them yet. And so, you know, I'm not like, it's not like, oh, I think I'll never learn that, or I'll never get there, or I think that I can't do something because I don't know that. I just come up with an idea and try to come up with like, what is a minimal set of skills that I need to achieve this, and be realistic about it. So usually when I start a new project, it's using some skills that I already have and then pushing myself in a few places. If you try to push everything, so if you say, oh, I have this crazy idea for this, you know, like incredible project but I don't know how to do any of it, then that's going to be like really hard. That's probably going to be unsuccessful because there's just too much for you to learn. But if you say like, oh, I have this really cool idea for a project, and, you know, I think I'm like, you know, my data processing skills are mature enough that I can do the data analysis, no problem. Like I anticipate that I know how to do that part, but, you know, I'm going to try building it with like, I don't know, D3, even though you might have not a ton of D3 experience. Or you say like, I'm going to try doing a more artistic design, even though you aren't totally confident in your design skills. And then you learn that aspect through the project. Like all the stuff that I've learned through doing projects by forcing yourself to do it. And so it's just trying to hit the right balancing act of like learning something in every project, but not going too crazy so that you get overwhelmed and discouraged, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I don't think you ever hit a point, like I still don't feel like I've hit a point where I'm like super confident in everything. You know, every project I do, there's something where I'm not confident and I'm worried that I won't be able to pull it off. So Yeah, so what I was going to say, if people are interested in typography, here's a little thing. Something with headlines. So I'm using Helvetica for both the body and the subheaders here. But you can see that what I've done is I've pulled in the tracking of the header. So that's the letter spacing of the header, like 3%. So if I put this at 0%, you can see the difference. This is a common thing that a lot of times headers, especially if they're lowercase and especially with Helvetica, this is like a particular thing that is true with other fonts, but also like particularly with Helvetica, and grotesques usually are this way, that for headers, they just look so good when the letter spacing is really, really tight, like almost touching. So I might even be able to go more with this. I put it at -3%. I could probably, let's try like -4%. Yeah, I still think it looks really good. And you can see the difference. Like, I don't know how to explain why it looks better, but I think it looks much, much better with the letter spacing pulled in like that compared to spaced out more. But you'll notice that on the body text, I did not adjust the tracking at all. So this one has a little bit wider spacing. And that's because it makes it easier to read. So usually body text like this, with a little bit more spacing, it is easier to read. Like you can see, if I pulled that in, it's still readable, and I still think it looks good. But especially from a distance, or if it's a small type, it looks a little bit better spaced out, or it's more legible, I should say, spaced out. Whereas the headers, especially if they're bold, especially if they're lowercase, especially if they're Helvetica, are going to look really nice when they are tightened up a little bit on the letter spacing. So yeah. Okay. And then now that I have all these type styles here, I'm going to make them into styles in Figma. So I'm going to make a new text style, and then I'm going to call this like H1. This isn't really H1 actually. This is going to be H2 because H1 is technically going to be like the title of the whole page. And I'm also just going to delete that and let this be the quote because having them mixed is not good for styles. Quote. This is going to be called H3. This is going to be called body. And this is going to be called, yeah, and actually I might even make this, I'm going to try a little something here with the caption to see if I can make it a little, I don't know, what do we think? Does it look nicer as all caps and spaced out a little bit? Looks a little too much like a UI element, maybe. Yeah, I'll just leave it like this for now, it's okay. So these are the styles for, yeah, not all caps. These are the styles for the card. So I probably should have named these when I was naming the styles, like card/H2 or something. So now I have to go do that. And then when I do the body for the rest of the, or when I do the styles for the rest of the page, it's going to be a little bit different. So you can see that this is size 18 and this is much bigger, and that's because I want, first of all, I want the body to be bigger when I have more space. The reason the card styles are all a little different and a little small is because they have to fit within this very confined space. When I'm writing just normal text and stuff, it's going to be a little bigger. And there's also going to be a little more contrast with the headlines. The headlines are going to be larger, which I like. So those are our type styles. I feel pretty good about them, at least for now. Like I said, we might change them. Whoops. We might change them a little bit when we actually start designing the full page, but I feel good with these pairings. I feel good with how it looks. I'm gonna move on to colors. So like I said, we had a lot of colors last time that I randomly just got from eyedroppering. So I was like just pulling out the eyedropper tool and particularly looking at these mustard shirts and like brown suits that Dwight wears. The other thing I want to look at, I came up with these two on my own, this blue and red. I don't know if I'll use those. The other thing I want to eyedropper a little bit is some of these like tans and browns. And I think it's going to be a very tannish, brownish color palette. My friend Gabby sent me this project, which she said reminded her of my idea on Behance. So this is a pretty cool project, and I totally agree. This is like totally a similar color scheme to what I'm going to. A lot of browns, a lot of sort of desaturated colors, a lot of tans. You know, it evokes paper, it evokes this feeling like when you watch the show of The Office, they have a pretty muted kind of drab color scheme. You know, there's definitely not a lot of bright colors, so drab couture. Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of what we're going for. And it's always trying to strike the balance of like ugly plus actually nice looking. So I'm going to leave these here, and then for the actual color schemes, I'm going to pull, this is more just like inspiration right now. And then I'm going to pull some of these down here to try to figure out which ones I'm actually going to use. I do want to see, a big question is, what is the main background color going to be and how dark is it going to be? I do want to try eyedroppering over here a little bit. That's like a little orange. It's a little too orangey for me. That's a better color. This still might be a little too orangey. But we'll see. I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot. This one is definitely too peachy now that I look at it. I might see if I can just... It's a little more like that. And I might need another... I want to try out a couple different shades for this. What I'm thinking is going to be my background color. I also like this color. I think it goes well with this scheme. It's pretty ugly. This one is sort of a wild card, the blue here. It might be too nice or too much like a pop of color, but I do like them, so I want to put them over there as a possibility. And then I want to think about how I can come up with some shades of colors for this. One thing that I want to try, so I'm gonna make these into styles, but it's really just gonna be like temporary. This is background 2, and I'm gonna make this one, oops, background 1. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to check how it looks on a full screen, because a lot of times when you have like a background color that covers a really large area, it actually looks a lot different than it does when it's like a small little square. So I am going to try setting this background 1, background 2. I think 1 is definitely better than 2 in this case. I also want to think about what I'm going to do for the purposes of seeing what this looks like is grab a screen cap from the show. Just so that I can have a better idea of what it's actually going to look like. Because I always want to design fairly close to what it's going to look like. So this helps me get a better feeling of that. Okay. So I liked the first background color better, but I want to start tweaking it and seeing if I can make something. I want to experiment with even going a little bit darker on the background. Like a gray. And actually, one way to do that would be to classic eyedropper. So that's too dark, but there's definitely a world in which this is a gray background. But then I don't know if the other colors will pair super well with that. What I'm going to do is bring this over here now. As I said, I'm going to copy this and paste it over here. There we go. And then let me think about my other colors for a little bit. Right now I'm just sort of arranging these in a way that makes sense to me, but so these are sort of like the core colors, I think. And then these are like background possibilities. I didn't like this background as much. And then I think the accent color possibilities are over here. And right now what I'm doing is just kind of comparing all of these colors, thinking about narrowing stuff down, experimenting with them, thinking about what's going to work. And when I'm thinking about that, I'm usually keeping in mind stuff like, is there enough contrast between the colors? Are they giving the right feel to the project? Is there going to be enough, how am I going to make enough contrast between the colors and the text so that it's still legible? And then always color blindness is another consideration. But with a project like this, I don't have a ton of colors, and so I'm probably not going to be relying solely on color to like encode data. So I'm probably not going to be very worried about color blindness, because I don't foresee a situation in which I have like a bunch of lines that all have different colors or something, and it's confusing for a colorblind person. Johanna says, wanted to choose ask how to choose color. Yeah, I wish I had a way better like systematic answer for you. The truth is, this is all fairly at this point it's fairly feel based. I mean, like I said, there's definitely all those considerations I'm keeping in mind. I'm also trying to narrow it down. You know, you can see that I started with more, and I sort of cut out a few at each stage, although I also added a couple. But I'm definitely going to be narrowing it down more from here because, you know, for a project like this, I don't need that many colors. I might want to do something where I have like lots of different shades of brown, and so that's why I have a lot of these. But you know, like I'm not going to use all these accent colors most likely, unless I need them for some specific reason. I might actually need them depending how I encode the data, but yeah, it's basically just trying to narrow stuff down and then come up with shades and see how they contrast with each other. So if the background is gray, let's try something where we make these, like we tried making these a brown and see what comes up. Is there enough contrast between those that they look different? Those do. Don't know if those do or not. I do like how all these browns are sort of playing against each other. Green is a nice complement to brown, so it might look nice to have a green in here. Might be too ugly at that point. That green is pretty ugly. I don't know. Might have to make a prettier green. And then another option, what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to try coloring these with these accent colors and see how that looks. I also don't need to like eyedropper all of these. I can probably just pull it from here. So I'm seeing what it looks like if I have little bits and pieces of these colors down here, and then I want to try different backgrounds. So this is the gray background. I could also go with a gray that's a little bit lighter, like I could keep going a little bit. I do like that, that's a nice option. And then I'm going to see what it looks like with a couple of other backgrounds. This is probably my other option. Possibly, oops. Possibly lighten this up a little bit. Problem if I lighten it up too much, it starts to look nice, actually. I'm liking this more than I'm liking this. I'm liking the cream colors more than I'm liking the grays right now. Like this one the best, I think. And I'm still really not sure about the colors, to be honest. I think it'll depend a little bit on how many colors I need. I should probably think about that, so... I don't know if these are going to be colored down here. I guess it makes sense to have them be colored. So... when I think about the types of classifications that I have for these, I have some of these errors are linguistic, well, linguistic isn't the category, non-linguistic, and then under linguistic there's, so I could just do a binary, I could do linguistic, non-linguistic. That's less interesting, I think, because I have a better breakdown. So I have non-linguistic, and then I have phonological, semantic, syntax errors, and morphological. I can spell. So, okay, that's actually helpful. I'm not 100% certain yet if I'm going to color these by error type, but that's one possibility. And it's good to know that I have it's good to know that I would need 5 colors in that case. So let's say hypothetically, if I had to come up with 5 colors, what would I do? One option is to have like 5 shades of brown and mustard, which I kind of like that idea. The other option is to have these accent colors. This is something that I'll probably run by people too. But my gut reaction right now is that I like having 5 different shades of brown, essentially, and mustard. I really like this color. I think this color could use a little bit of brightening up, maybe. far as these colors go, I like these colors, but I'm worried that these two... So I'm worried that these two might not be distinguishable enough, and then I don't know exactly where this one fits in. I think maybe this one just, again, it needs a little bit more color in it. Didn't love that change. This one is basically just a gray right now. These could be my five. These could be my five pieces of paper colors from my little histogram at the bottom. Another option, of course, is to have them be white. That would make sense. So if I had a little white square, what would that look like? So these are supposed to be pieces of paper, actually. I don't know if at the size that they are at right now that they will be like recognizable. Let me try to figure out how to do this with, you know what, why don't I just draw it with a pen? I actually want this to be a little bit bigger. Okay. So here's my little piece of paper. Now, this is sort of cheating because could I leave it as a 1 pixel stroke? I guess I could leave it as a 1 pixel stroke. So I'm actually going to componentize this now, just for ease of use. And then I'm going to say, what if the paper was white? Kind of like that look. That might look better against the gray. Adding little links is too much. I'm not sure. What do you mean about adding little links? Explain more. I'm curious. Maybe you mean like one of the ideas is, oh, little lines. Okay. Yeah, I think I actually like that idea. Like I actually had that idea in my first round of this, but I think it depends how big these are. So, so this is like 100%. So this is how big the project would actually be like on someone's laptop screen. Oh yeah, German autocorrect, no problem. So this is how big it would actually be on someone's laptop screen. And so I could probably make these slightly larger with the space that I have here, but a question is like, these might be pretty small. And so if they're that small, the amount of detail you add sometimes becomes unnoticeable. So if I added a bunch of little lines, it might not be very noticeable. And or it might start to look too cluttered, I think. I might try it if I could make these a little bigger. At the size that they're at right now, I think adding lines would just not be like visible, but if I were to make them a little larger, then I think I might try that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It might just be a little too much. So that's what those would look like. I'm gonna go ahead and try see what all these browns look like together. Yeah, that's a possibility. The other possibility is I need a focus state, so these could be colored by... Maybe the focus state is that it's just highlighted or something. I was thinking maybe the focus state could be the white pieces of paper. I kind of like the white, actually, like that's really appealing to me, but then the problem is that removes the option for it to be encoded with data. Like visually, I'm enjoying the white papers, but then I don't know how to encode them with as one of these 5 error types. I wonder if I tried outlining it, maybe that would work. I'd have to use like a darker color probably to make it noticeable at all. It's a possibility. I don't love that as much. Okay, so now that I've come up with a couple of possible color schemes here, what I'm going to do is shift this over to the different background options. So I can see how it looks. Oh, whoops, that wasn't helpful because I very smartly Forgot to add all of these little paper guys to the group. This is fun. Okay, where does this go? These all go into group 7. Okay. Oops, forgot this one. Okay. So now I basically have a bunch of options, and I'm going to do what I normally do, which is go ask people that are smarter than me what they think of them, and that will usually either give me a good idea or get me thinking more about it, and I will take it from there. I think this was a good place to stop for today. We got a lot farther on the colors. We tried out a couple of different layouts, which didn't really work, but it was fun to try out. Right now I am leaning pretty heavily towards this layout. We'll see. Maybe there's a way I can add a little context thing down here with like the next one up. I'll experiment with that. And we got all of our typography settled, which is really important for me because for me, most of a design stems from typography, so that's like the thing that usually inspires me. Some people like colors, I like typography. So for me, this really helps to sort of cement the feel of the project. And I think with the colors and particularly getting these little paper icons, it's getting a lot closer. So yeah. Next time I did copy something over here, which is a little sort of paragraph that I wrote at the beginning of this project of how I might introduce the material to somebody. So next time I'm going to try to wrap up all the color choices and everything. And then I'm going to start storyboarding and trying to figure out what all the front matter and the story is going to be. So yeah, thanks Robert, thanks for hanging out so much, I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody else. I will be back next week at the same time.